Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The most high-profile heavyweight fight of the weekend is a very interesting Crossroads fight between Dominic Breazeale, the former two-time title challenger, and Otto Wallin, who came close to beating Tyson Fury, but ultimately fell short. So both guys have got quite a bit on the line, because Breazeale wanting to prove he's got something left, and Otto Wallin wanting to prove that he can actually make something of his career, and it wasn't just some sort of lucky performance against Tyson Fury. And it certainly wasn't a lucky performance, but we'll come to that a bit later on. Not so much the Fury stuff, because as Wallin is saying, he's past that now. He's forging his own path. He's got to, get some wins in the ledger to actually be a contender in the heavyweight division. But I want to start with Dominic Breazeale, because it's an interesting case, and obviously Breazeale now is in his mid-30s. He's a guy who fought Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, mandatory challenges both times, but came up short. Blitzed in a round by Wilder, but beaten up over 7 by Joshua, and he really wasn't in those fights to any real extent. But at a lower level, he has proven highly effective, and not because he's some defensive wizard or maestro, more so because he can bang. He's been durable in his career. He can take a shot, and he's able to give back his own. And if he can catch a guy like Otto Wallin, well, maybe he'll be able to do something. But there is something to be said about recent performances that I'm not really sort of expecting much out of Dominic Breazeale. I'm more in the camp now that I think that Dominic Breazeale's been in just, a few too many hard fights. I think he might be a bit washed at this point, but then again, he is still a big puncher, and even though sometimes those punches aren't coming in at rapid pace, if he connects, as Breazeale Otto found out in 2017, he can certainly hurt you. But he's been in quite a few different wars over the years. And you think the beating he took against Joshua, he was in a war with Amir Mansour, a war with Breazeale Otto. Other fights too, he's taken punishment, he's taken shots. He does tend to block punches with his face and also his ample body, all 6'7" of Dominic Breazeale. So it is a fight where I think that Otto Wallin is going to have success. I think Breazeale, to win this fight, he's got to knock out the Swedish heavyweight. Otherwise, I can't really see a path to victory. And there's one thing right now that I want to cover off and make clear. Don't expect to see a slugfest. There's been certain journalists and other media that have been saying that Otto Wallin versus Dominic Breazeale is going to be a real brawl. It's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be a super fun fight. Especially the whole slugfest part of it, because anyone who's seen Otto Wallin, and I talked about this on Twitter, anyone who's seen Wallin outside of that Tyson Fury performance where it was a bit ugly and gritty, and in most part that was down to Tyson Fury being cut. Fury had to fight a different fight. He tried to make it, where they were fighting at close quarters because he didn't want to be sort of picked off at range. But Wallin is a guy who will move, he will use his skills, he will, try to pick Dominic Breazeale apart. This isn't going to be a fight where Otto Wallin's going to be standing toe-to-toe and slugging it out with Dominic Breazeale. So if you expect that to happen, I think you might be sorely disappointed. And one of the things too is Otto Wallin's not a massive puncher, so trying to go into a slugfest without massive power is going to probably be a situation where he comes off second best. And also, let's face it, a slugfest is pretty much Dominic Breazeale's path to victory, and it has been in the past. So I'm expecting the version of Otto Wallin who's going to box, he's going to move, he's going to use that jab, use angles. He's going to make it difficult for Dominic Breazeale. He's probably going to try to just break him down over rounds, tire him out, and probably will try to step it on a little bit later on. But I'm either expecting this one to end in a win to Otto Wallin by a clear-cut decision, something like 9-3. It's a 10-rounder, so something like 8-2, 7-3, something like that. Or he's able to effectively break Breazeale down over rounds. Breazeale tires out, and then he's able to stop him pretty much through accumulation, because Dominic Breazeale has gassed out. He's tired. Breazeale is just taking too much, shipping too much punishment, and the ref steps in. But I would be more leaning towards a decision where Otto Wallin is sort of cruising throughout the fight, proving, he's got skills and that skills pay the bills. But with some of the training that Dominic Breazeale's been doing, he's been working up at Big Bear with Abel Sanchez, etc. But also he seems to be in pretty good shape too. So this footage on screen, this is Breazeale one day or inside the day that I've recorded this video. So he's posted this to his Instagram, so he's put this up in fight week. I'm looking at this thinking, actually, for Breazeale, he looks in pretty good condition, but sometimes, the loose clothing, etc., can be deceptive. But, just looking at sort of the face, neck area, legs, that sort of stuff, he does appear to be maybe just a bit trimmer than he normally is. And I think having trained at altitude, that'll be good for his gas tank as well. But he's probably going to know that Otto Wallin is going to come in good condition. He's going to be boxing and moving. He's going to try to make Dominic Breazeale work, probably more than Breazeale wants to. And he's going to need to have a good gas tank to keep up with Otto Wallin. Ultimately, though, I think that Breazeale at this point has taken just too much punishment in his career. I think he is, pretty shop-worn these days, a bit washed. And I think that Otto Wallin is going to win this fight, and it is going to be a case that this is a good showcase fight for Otto Wallin. I really believe that. I think this is good matchmaking designed to make Otto Wallin look good. Dominic Breazeale is the past. Otto Wallin is still a guy, that they could maybe make something of and build him up to potentially face a guy on PBC on a Showtime card, something like that. So, yeah, I think that this is a good opportunity for Wallin, and he's actually said just in the past day or so in a clip on Instagram, which is a post to accompany it, see here on screen, I'd rather be known for my big wins than my good losses. It's now time to show that to everybody. And I like that mentality because for so long after that loss to Tyson Fury, where he put up a good spirited effort, it was better than many expected because a lot of people didn't know who Wallin was before he fought Tyson Fury. But to those who'd been following his career, had seen a lot of his earlier fights, including that good win over Adrian Granat, which to that point, and still is his best win on his career, I think, we are looking to see what Otto Wallin can do, how much he can prove, how far he can go. And they had been talking about, after that loss to Tyson Fury, just, look, I'm a top 10 heavyweight. Look, I'm this, that, and the other. I deserve to be at the top table, yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, you got to prove that in the ring. You've got to get wins, and, looking good in a loss is one thing, but ultimately it doesn't really gain you the respect, and you can't really legitimately claim you're one of the best in the world, one of the top 10 heavyweights in the world, if you don't have anything on your resume. At this point, I think Otto Wallin, somewhere around top 30. Hard to say what a ceiling is. I mean, maybe top 10-ish, top 15, but he's got to get some names, fatten out that resume to prove where he is in the heavyweight division. So this is a case he can actually prove to us his stock, where he belongs, where his place is at this point. And I think this is a good opponent at least to look good against and help sell him, a little further than just the Tyson Fury fight. He can push on from that performance and start banking some actual, okay, so this is where I'm at, this is what I can do, this is what people can expect. So I like this fight for Otto Wallin, and as you can tell, I expect he is going to win this one. I'm not completely counting out Dominic Breazeale, but I think at this point he's just a little bit too past it. I think he's been in too many wars, and I think he's not going to keep up with Otto Wallin. He will be outboxed, outpointed, and will lose this fight. And if that's the case, I mean, you can certainly question the what next, because he's sort of at that point, and this is why it's a crossroads fight for him, as well as Wallin, who needs to prove something to the division. But for Breazeale, if he loses this one, maybe he starts to get fed to up-and-coming prospects. It's that phase, gatekeeper type, for certain level prospects. I could totally see that. But Otto Wallin to win this fight. What do you make of it all? What's your prediction? Let me know. Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.